Hello everybody, I'm Simeon, and as you're aware, earlier this summer I went to Africa, to the country of Uganda, and the place I stayed in was Rukungiri, which was a remote village which was quite high up above sea level. Our main aim to go out there was to help build dormitories for a school that has been based there and has been progressively being built over the last 2 years. We were team 2, a team before us went out and built the foundations, and we went there to help, start building the walls. But whilst we were there, the project work was in the mornings, and in the afternoons we went out around Rukungiri and around different places just to see different projects that are going on in Uganda. One of the activities we did when we were there was we visited the Rukungiri modern pre-primary school and the primary school, so they were next door to each other. So when we arrived, we went into some of the classrooms, and the kids love to sing you a song, so they sang us a few of their songs. All the kids lined up in the playground, probably about 300 of them, and then each of us individually said who we were, where we came from, and they said thank you for the work we've been doing. We were singing songs about butterflies, so this is their interpretation of butterflies. When we arrived, before going into the primary school, some of the pupils came out and did a march with their drums and singing, and it's pretty impressive. And then as we left, when the head teacher said go back to lessons, we were swarmed by all the African kids who just came up to us, high-fived us, fist bumped, which was pretty amazing to see. On one of the afternoons, we visited Rukungiri to see the marketplaces and the different shops. Ironically, this was the one afternoon it rained. However, we were lucky enough to go to this material shop where we were allowed to buy materials, because that evening we would be getting tailor-made suits that we'd be allowed to wear for our last meal together. Here's some of us looking good, I have to say. I chose material that someone else chose, who made theirs into a dress. The deaf children visited us at our hotel, where we all lined up and they gave us sign names. That afternoon we then played with them, played games, played football. They weren't camera shy at all. They loved to have their photos taken. 2 kids came from Rwanda, which is probably 100 miles away, and the only language they could speak was their native language. But it was 2 brothers on their own, and they'd only heard of the orphanage just by chance, and they thought, you know what, let's get there. So they made their way 100 miles to the Ugandan border, where they were picked up by a lady called Alice and took them to the orphanage. Anything could have happened to them, but God was with them all the way. On one of the afternoons, we visited a local chili farm where we were able to pick chilies. We were there for an hour and a half, and we managed to pick just under 2 kilograms of chilies. We made 12.5p in an hour and a half, which is pretty eye-opening to see. These are some of the chilies I managed to pick. Very hot, but quite small. On Sunday, we were lucky to go to a local church. It was just amazing to see all the songs they sang. However, like we have offerings of giving money, they have offerings of giving their produce, their livestock. So some people brought sugarcane, some people brought chickens. We got very excited at the chickens. So when we heard there'd be an auction, we thought, you know what, let's all buy a chicken. Some of us bought chickens. Mine cost 40,000 shillings, which is £8. I named my chicken Alice. We have bells to announce church is starting. They have drums, which is pretty cool. We visited a place called Prayer Mountain, where at the top of it is a church where people can go to pray. We were there for a different reason, however, as we met the Mumpororo troupe, which was a dance group who played the drums, danced and sang for us. They had shakers on their feet. They then got us involved. We had to wear these little skirts. It was great fun though, just the atmosphere and the community they had. Whilst we were there, I met a lad called Aslaf who supports Arsenal, but we won't get into that right now. I gave Alice away, which is quite a hard thing to do because I didn't know if Aslaf would take her home for eggs or to eat. But before I start crying, we'll move on. One afternoon we visited a project called Mosaic, which is a small orphan village, and we went there to build a drying rack made out of wood that our bus driver called Columbus had pre-cut. So we went there, dug the holes and built it. Another team who were there with us was an American team from Oklahoma who went out with a company called Mission Direct, and they'd been drilling a borehole, a well for water, so they just had to keep chipping away at hard rock for days on end. But eventually, I think 3 days before we left, they hit water, which was fantastic news, and that was the 33rd borehole in Uganda that had been done by Mission for Water. On the way home, we stopped off at a place called Queen Elizabeth National Park to just have time to relax and take in what we'd experienced for the last 2 weeks. But the first night we were there, we went on a dust cruise and saw some pretty impressive animals. I'm proud of this because the boat we were on was called Simba. Great name. The following morning, we went on a game drive at 5 in the morning, and the first animal we saw was a male lion. However, it was too dark to take a picture, but we saw some antelope, some monkeys, and a pride of lions who are actually hunting a pack of warthogs. I enjoyed the activities we did over the course of the 2 weeks. And just to see the different culture and the way people live and the things they do. But our overall objective was to go to this school that's been ongoing for 2 years, and we were there to help carry on from Team 1, who'd built the foundations, and we were there to carry on with the work. I've got a few pictures now to show how that went and what we got up to. When we arrived at the building site for the first time, this is what the dormitory, part of the school we'd be working on, looked like. As you can see, the scaffolding poles have just started to go up, and the very first level of brickwork. Now for bricks, obviously you need water, and this picture shows us pumping water from a borehole which is probably about 200 meters away from the school. So we took the jerry cans, pumped up, filled them up, and walked them back, which we tried to look way more manly to carry 2 than just 1, because we were getting laughed at by the African kids. When we got back up to the building site, we emptied the jerry cans into big buckets where we could then mix it into mortar, which is cement. Here is a guy making bricks, handmade. All the bricks that we used, or the builders were using, were individually handmade and then set out to dry in the sun, or in some places there were ovens, big ovens that they were cooked in to harden. The bricks were divided into large halves and oddly shaped bricks, so the workers knew which ones could fit into the different gaps whilst building the walls. This is the wall gradually going up over the course of the first week we were there, and in front of the site you can see there are big piles of bricks that we made a chain like ants to build up, so the workers just picked them up or picked the one they wanted for the gaps in the wall that they needed. This is the wall that Silas said he was very proud of building, but Jeremy also helped. And the guy standing next to him is called Wilson. He was the site manager. This is the building on the last morning we were there. And as you can see, the walls are now all level with the windows ready to go in, and the scaffolding works so the walls can be built even higher by Team 3 who'd be going out when we return. This is part of the school that's already been built. We didn't do any work on the outside, but on the inside we painted these rooms, and as you can see, all the little holes in the ceiling and the light shining through onto the wall we filled with sap from trees, heated it up, and it turned into like a goo, so we were able to fill in the roof gaps to stop if it did rain. It didn't rain, but if it ever does, it will stop the classroom leaking. Around the school they had lots of bins saying "Clean up for Jesus." Quite a religious people. And then on each of the trees they had different sayings. This one's avoid sugar daddies and mummies. And they're quite religious, so they drill into the children, you know, no adultery, no sex before marriage, that sort of stuff. One of the mornings the workers took us to where they get their cooking water from. This is also the water they drink from. It's actually, well, if you can say better for them, it's better for them than the borehole water where we were pumping water from, as that has lots of metal in that has like rust, so it goes into the water and is actually worse for them. As we were building the dormitory, this young guy here is called Abdul, who's 21 years old and has cerebral palsy. He's lived in this doorway basically all of his life, and the aim of the dormitories was to get people like Abdul to be nearer the school, so they can go to school. And the aim is that when the school is complete, Abdul will move in to the dormitory and have an education. Quickly, I'd like to just mention the food we had out in Uganda. The stuff we tried was amazing, and for those 2 weeks it was probably the best I was fed all summer. But Mum, keep up the good work. And also I'd like to take this opportunity to, I can speak for Silas and Jeremy at this point, all the support we've had, all the prayers you've been giving us before we went, and all the money that you've helped fundraise for us has been truly fantastic. But yeah, I'd like to thank everyone in Bracknell who's donated money, everyone in Dartford who's donated money, friends, family, toddler group who did events that I didn't even know about and raised me money. All truly amazing, and I can't wait to be back there. So thank you.